Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our council meeting. I want to deal with the land acknowledgement first of all. So we acknowledge that we live, work, and gather on the traditional and unceded territory of the Algonquin people, specifically the Temiskaming First Nations. We recognize the presence of the Temiskaming First Nation in our community since time immemorial and honor their long history of welcoming many nations to this beautiful territory and uphold and uplift their voice and values. So we'll call the meeting to order, and I'll ask the clerk for the roll call, please.
Good evening, Your Worship. All members are present.
Thank you very much. Item number 3 is review of revisions or deletions to the agenda, and the clerk requested the deletion of the following items. Under 15H, the Administrative Report CS 040-2021, the lease agreement for the Hillbury Arena concession stand. And under section 16, the bylaws, bylaw 2021-147, to enter into an agreement with the Ophelia Hartsky for the provision of the concession services at the Hillbury Arena. So that's the revisions that I have. Anybody else want to? Councillor Jelly?
Yes, could I ask that bylaw 2021-154 be separated from the other bylaws to allow discussion?
We can discuss that as we go through. I'll read all the bylaws and we'll open up for discussion.
It's your call, Your Worship. I just thought it would be easier if we dealt with them and then separated that one for discussion. Your call.
So I think we can open up and have as much discussion as we want, the way it's set up here. So any other amendments? I got a motion. Resolution number 2021-404 be it resolved the City Council approves the agenda as amended. Moving to seconder, Councillor Ferrier, second by Councillor Foley. All in favor? That is carried. Item number 5, disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature. Has anybody got something they need to disclose at this point? And I'll ask the clerk as well.
Thank you. Mayor Kidd declared a conflict of pecuniary interest related to Section 16 bylaws, bylaw number 2021-141, to appoint an interim integrity commissioner for the City of Temiskaming Shores, which repeals bylaw number 2019-036, as he is subject of an ongoing proceedings related to a decision on the integrity commissioner on a conflict of interest complaint report.
Thank you very much. Moving on, item number 6, review and adoption of the council minutes. And I got a motion, be it resolved the City Council approves the following minutes as printed. A, the regular meeting of council held on September the 21st, 2021. And then B, the special meeting of council held on September the 28th, 2021. Can I have a mover and a seconder for Councillor MacArthur? Second by Councillor Jelly. Any discussion on those two sets of minutes? All in favor? That is carried. Number 7 is the public meetings pursuant to the Planning Act, Municipal Act, and other statutes. And tonight we have a presentation regarding a potential disposition of land. The applicant is Kelly Nemi. The property as a portion of Delilah Lane. And the purpose of this public meeting is to present to council and to the public details related to the proposed disposition of land, being a portion of Delilah Lane and Hillbury. The meeting also allows the public to provide comments on the proposed disposition prior to council making a decision. So I now declare this to be an open public meeting and request the clerk, Logan Belanger, to outline the details of the proposed disposition. Logan.
Thank you, Your Worship and members of council. The city received an application from Kelly Nemi to purchase a portion of Delilah Lane on Plan M13 and B. The applicant owns the adjacent parcel of land in the subject area being 456 Rourke Avenue, and there's a residential home on the property. The applicant is seeking to purchase the parcel for contiguous ownership for the creation of a driveway. Due to the size of the parcel and the location of the dwelling on the property, space does not appear to exist for the creation of a driveway without the proposed sale. This picture outlines an aerial image which identifies the location of 456 Rourke Avenue and the lot coverage of the house related to the property, as well as the portion of Delilah Lane that is requested. The image also outlines the rear access to 5 properties on Emerald Street and for the 9 properties on Main Street. The following two slides show images to show the property in relation to the front of the home and the location of utility lines. Staff previously completed a site visit to determine if parking space could be created in front of the home. However, due to the location of the house, the front steps, the utility pole, and sidewalk, it was determined not to be feasible. This picture shows Delilah Lane in relation to 456 Rourke Avenue and the location of the utility poles. With respect to the disposition of land bylaw 2015-160, section 3 outlines the disposal methods. So if approved, a direct disposition to the applicant. Section 4, which is the determination of value, a recommended price of $500 plus all associated costs, such as legal fees, survey costs, etc. Section 6 was the public meeting notice. There was a notice sent or published in the city's bulletin, as well as on the website, and notice was also mailed to the 14 neighboring property owners. The application was circulated to staff with the following comments. The chief building official noted that the building to the north has an unprotected opening, which is a window, in the wall adjacent to the laneway on the south side, and would likely have been permitted as the lane offers an extension to the limiting distance. The subject portion of the lane may be subject to restriction on construction due to the limiting distance of the existing structure to the north. The Economic Development Officer noted that the opposite end of the laneway was closed due to a previous land sale. Therefore, the remaining properties would no longer have access to the rear of their properties. The remainder of the lane would have no value to the city as it would be landlocked. The Planning Department noted that there are a number of properties on either side of the lane to the west of this area. Selling the portion of the laneway, which is the entrance to the laneway, would effectively block access to the rear of these properties. Should council approve proceeding through the disposition process, it's recommended that all the property owners on both sides of the opening be offered, of the laneway, be offered half of the laneway that directly abuts the rear of their property. If any of the property owners would not agree to the sale, it would not be recommended to proceed. The Public Works Department noted that there are tanks located to the north of the lane and are located on the, or to determine if they are located on the subject lands. If so, a removal would be required. With the public notice that was circulated and published, we did receive the following public comments. So we did receive an email from Mr. Earl McDonald, which is a resident. He notes that he is opposed to the sale. The sale would negate the use of the laneway that runs between the Upper Main Street and Upper Amwell Street, since this is the only access to the laneway. This laneway is used on a regular basis for numerous reasons, as well as by many others on Main and Amwell to gain access to their backyards. The majority of phone, internet, hydro, and gas lines run through this laneway, making access difficult to service these utilities should there be an outage. And he had previously issued a petition to the city signed by 10 residences from Amwell and Main Street about the matter of the lane being blocked previously. And he believes that there is room south of the house to construct a driveway. We also received an email from Ms. Helen Olson, which is a resident. She provided an email yesterday, also noting her opposition to the sale of the portion of Delilah Lane, as it provides access not only to the backyards, but also for fire services. The lane is vital for electrical and cable companies, as well as for tree services. Ms. Olson noted that there have been times that service providers have required access to the lane to remove tree branches from power and service lines, and also for service providers to correct issues with their lines. She advised that residents that both front on Amwell Street as well as Main Street use the lane to access their backyards, and that the sale for parking would potentially create a safety hazard due to the busy street of Rourke Avenue and the garage located to the north, limiting the view of access for motorists. On October 4th, the city was also advised that a gas main runs directly through Delilah Lane to service the homes in this area. Should council wish to proceed, staff would further investigate these matters, as gas mains are traditionally not located on privately owned lands. The next steps would be to seek council direction related to the proposed sale, and should council approve proceeding with the disposition, the city would order a survey to legally describe the portion of the subject lanes, the adoption of a stop up and close bylaw for the portion of the laneway, a deeming bylaw, as well as an administrative report recommending the purchase and sale agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, Logan. Is there any members of the public here tonight that would like to speak to this issue? Or whether Logan's covered all the details? So, yes, ma'am. Do you want to state your name and address? And do you want to use the podium? The microphone should be turned on. So,
my husband and I own 456 York Street. When we purchased the building, we consulted the town about having a driveway installed any way or means. We had 2 members of the town come out, check the driveway, or check the land that we did have there. There's absolutely no spot to put a driveway. We were told then when we purchased the property that we could use Delilah Lane to park a car. We've never kept it blocked up. This is a rental property. I did have issues with previous tenants that I've evicted for making a mess in the laneway, even though they knew they weren't having it as a garage. I'm not planning on building a garage or a permanent structure. My new tenant has a vehicle. She works. She has no children that live with her. She just needs somewhere to park her car. I was advised that maybe I could use Mr. Pichette's yard, but Mr. Pichette had told my tenant that they could park on the other side closer to the road, to the highway coming in, which isn't feasible considering the fact of winter's coming. I can't keep his yard clean, and vandalism that goes on is pretty high strung lately. I have no other options. As I said, I'm not planning on building, I'm not planning on blocking it off. If there is issues, a car can be moved. That's all I need. And I'm willing to pay any of the extra costs to have issues with to have it switched over to our name, or if there is issues with the gas lines and such that run through it. As I said, we're not planning on putting a permanent structure up, just to use it as a place to park our vehicle. That's everything.
Mr. Pichette owns the garage on
Yes,
the corner.
he
That's where you're speaking of? Yes, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Councilor MacArthur.
Yes, I was just wondering if this portion of the subject laneway would be used by the fire folks in an emergency. Is this where they might have to go in a situation of importance to the area and to the homeowners?
Sorry.
So Steve is here as well, but so.
All of the properties face existing streets, so that it would just be a secondary access for us. I don't think we'd have to use it. That being said, they're not proposing to build a structure there, so worst case scenario, we might have to move a vehicle, but I really think we could access all the properties from the actual streets they face.
Okay. Other comments, questions from council? So, what's the wishes of council? Do we proceed with a minimum report for the next council meeting, or do you want to deal with this tonight, or what's the council's wishes at this point? If you're not comfortable selling this property, we can deal with it tonight. If you want to have more information and another admin report for the next council meeting, we can do that as well. So Councilor Jelly?
I'm certainly not comfortable disposing of the property this evening. I think we need to know a little bit more. We do landlock the other neighbors, and I certainly understand Ms. Niemi's position also. I don't know if something can be worked out, if they could use the laneway to park with the knowledge that they have to move if somebody comes out. Or I noticed quite a bit of debris against the back of that building. If that wasn't there, would there be enough room to squeeze a car in to still have one get by? I certainly don't want to set up where we get a neighbor squabble going on either, but I certainly understand Mrs. Niemi's position, but I don't feel personally comfortable in selling that portion of land.
Any other comments?
Can I say something?
Certainly, yes.
Even if I don't have the option to buy the property, just so that my tenant's not constantly getting parking tickets. Ever since we renovated the house and I evicted the last tenants, anybody that parks there gets a parking ticket. We've never had that issue with the last 5 years. Even if we said if I could just have a lease on it so she can have a safe spot to park, so she's out of the way, she can deal with her own snow removal. I don't have any, I'm not sure. I guess Council Jelly were talking about the garage that has this stuff against it, because we don't have anything against the house. Okay. But that's all I'd be requesting.
Yeah, I think the main issue that I have anyways is that anybody wanting to put anything in that laneway or taking it out of that laneway has got to make sure that vehicle is not parked there, and that's going to be the issue. So whether, yeah. Well, we'll let council think about it. We'll get Logan to do a bit of an admin report for the next council meeting, and by then we'll have to make up our mind whether we agree to the sale or whether we amend it and look at other options, selling half lots to each household, or whether we just don't allow anybody to use that laneway for parking at all. So that's sort of the three options that maybe we'll bring back to the council meeting, for next council meeting there, and we'll have a vote on option 1, 2, or 3. Okay. Councilor MacArthur?
Yeah, and also maybe we can find out about snow removal.
We've always dealt with the snow removal in the past. We've always kept it clean and pushed it up so that our vehicles were able, they didn't come back onto the road. We gathered it up. Mr. Pichette, who used the laneway before, always used the laneway for his snow removal from the garage. But after I was told that I could use it, then I looked after the snow. If we can't deal with something now, is there a possibility of getting something that at least my tenant can park there without getting a parking ticket every time? I
don't know, we'd have to talk to bylaw people, but we would bring this back to council in 2 weeks' time and deal with it then. But so what could be done for the next 2 weeks? I'm not sure. I'd have to talk to bylaw people. So we do have a motion. Councilor Jelly?
Yeah, I would think that considering the circumstances, I would think the issue is people calling in and wanting to use the laneway, which we can't actually deny them that at this point. I'm just wondering if perhaps a measurement could be taken to see if there's some way we can figure out. I don't think the winter time's much of an issue because it's not an open laneway anyways, I don't believe. So it's this time of the year and summertime when people have to get off the street. So I think we should get an admin report back, and, you know, for us to start directing a bylaw officers, we'll leave that in the discretion of our city manager and what have you, but we can't give directions like that through council. Thank you.
Well, we do have a motion to be resolved that council of the city of Temiskaming Shores hereby acknowledge the presentation in regards to potential disposition of land from the municipal clerk, and that the council authorizes the staff to continue with a potential disposition of land with Kelly Nemi for the portion of Delilah Lane, and it's just a continuing a staff report, bringing the staff report back to council on this matter and the different options. So we were moving a seconder, just move by Councilor Jelly, second by Councilor MacArthur. All in favor? That is carried. We reached our first question and answer period. Anybody got a question of council at this point? Normally we don't, so we'll carry on. We have no presentations tonight. 10 is the communications, and 10A is a letter from Dan Tashi, the president of Tashi Construction Incorporated, regarding a letter of intent for the Nilisquid waterfront development received on September the 17th, and is referred to the Building Maintenance Committee and the Corporate Services Committee. 10B is a letter from Danny Whalen, president of the FNOM, a letter to the Honorable Peter Bethelfabi, Minister of Finance, regarding support for Ontario municipalities to grant the same revenue tools as the City of Toronto, and that was received on September the 23rd. For our information, 10C is the Earl and Temiskaming Regional Airport Authority, the financial statements for March, April, May, and June received for our information. 10D is the Earl and Temiskaming Regional Airport Authority Managers Reports for March, April, May, and June as well for our information. 10E is the Federation of Northern Ontario Municipalities resolution of support for consolidation of agencies to address the opioid mental health and addiction crisis, received on September the 29th for information. 10F is a letter from Ross Brubaker, President of Riverside Farmers Market Board of Directors, requesting for an exemption to vaccine passports for the farmers market vendors and patrons, received on September the 29th for information. 10G is a letter from Sandra Kitchen, the acting clerk, Town of Kingsville, looking for support resolution for Save Eye Care in Ontario, received on October the 1st for information. 10H is a letter from Sheila Olan McLean, the president of CUPE, regarding the 21st Annual Child Care Worker and Early Childhood Educator Appreciation Day. It's coming up on October the 21st, 2021. There'll be a motion presented under Section 15 of the new business tonight. 10I was a letter from Dr. Glenn Corneal, the Acting Medical Officer of Health, the Chief Executive Officer for Temiskaming Health Unit, regarding a request for the Temiskaming Health Unit related to the recreational facilities proof of vaccine or COVID-19 vaccination policy. And that's received on October the 1st. And there's a bylaw presented for consideration under Section 16 of the bylaws tonight as well. And lastly, 10J is a letter from Phil Whitten, the Superintendent Commander from Municipal Police Bureau, regarding the OPP Municipal Policing 2022 Annual Billing Statement, received on September the 30th for information. So, a motion be it resolved that City Council agrees to deal with communication items 10A through 10J according to the agenda references. Moved by Councillor Ferrier, second by Councillor Whalen. Any comments? I think we're on for Councillor Whalen.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Kidd. I just wondering if I could ask that items B and E from the Federation of Northern Ontario Municipalities be brought back for consideration.
We can do that. Any other? Councillor MacArthur?
Yes, the letter 10A from Mr. Taché, President of Taché Construction Inc. I'm a little puzzled with this letter because I thought that we were sending him a letter telling him that if he's interested in maybe some senior housing and long-term care in Temiskaming Shores, it would be probably a very good idea. Now we seem to get the letter that it's strictly to do with the waterfront development, where I don't think we were at any time wishing to put any kind of senior housing or long-term care in that vicinity. So I think we got our wires crossed somewhere, because Mr. Taché was supposed to get a letter asking if he'd be interested in possibly doing some more senior housing in Temiskaming Shores.
I think we had actually two letters. We had one letter looking for any land that we might be able to offer for donation towards seniors housing or affordable housing, I should say. And the other letter was in regard to our presentation regarding our waterfront property for the marina and what we're going to do there. So he had also sent in a letter saying that he would like to make a proposal for some kind of development to replace that marina building as well. So there's two separate letters. So I think both need to be discussed probably through Economic Development Corp. They should be developed through or discussed through corporate services. Building maintenance, I'm not sure how that's going to tie into this particular topic. So, Chris?
And so the reference for building maintenance, because building maintenance has been dealing with the existing marina facility, so that's why. If I could, you just mentioned Economic Development Committee. Would you wish to change that reference on the agenda so that it be also referred to Economic Development Corporation? I
believe we should, yes. Councillor Whalen?
Yeah, I agree that they should be included, but I would leave building maintenance, because until we get a concrete direction from Recreation on the building, then we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves.
Okay. Well, we'll just add the Active Corp to that direction there. So, Councillor Jelly?
Yes, Your Worship, if I could, I know Councillor Whalen asked for E to be brought back, which I totally agree with. I just also wanted to mention that at our September 20th Police Services Board meeting, there was a motion passed supporting the Ontario Provincial Police and the Temiskaming Cochrane Mental Health Organization. They formed mobile rapid response teams to answer to these. So it is starting in the area, and this is a giant step. This is in both our area and Kirkland Lake. And in our area, there are 2 officers assigned to this unit. So there is some progress being made out there, hopefully. And again, that will tie directly back into DSAB when it comes for housing and what have you. Next, if I could, item G, Save Eye Care in Ontario. I'd like that brought back for consideration, please.
Okay, can do.
And item J, the letter from Phil Welton concerning our 2022 annual billing statement. It has come in. I just would like to point out briefly to the council that our actual costs in 2022 will be down $116,832, thus dropping our monthly payment. Our property costs went from 177 down to 172. Court security dropped from 38.59 to 29.92. So all in all, at this point, our OPP billing for 2022 will be less than this year. I do caution on the court security end of it. That's been somewhat affected by the pandemic also. So once we get over this and get going again, that cost is likely to go up or even go up considerable, just depending on the backlog in the courts. Thank you very much.
Okay, so that report's in our council package, so people can take time to read that, and we get all the numbers there as well there. So, anybody else? Any comments? Anything brought? Councillor Hewitt, you want to unmute? Yep, there we go.
Yeah, I myself would like item E brought back to council for consideration and consultation. In regards to the resolution of support for to address the opioid crisis.
I think that's the one that Councillor Whalen wanted to bring back. Yes, okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Anything else? Is that the only item you wanted to bring back there, Councillor Hewitt? Can you hear me, Councillor Hewitt? We seem to have an audio problem with her feed. So, okay. So we will bring back item E for discussion in next council meeting, so thank you. Any other comments? If not, I'll call the motion. All in favor? That would be carried. Moving on to item number 11, the Committees of Council. A resolution be it resolved that the following minutes be accepted for information. A, the minutes of the Earlton Temiskaming Regional Airport Authority meeting held on July the 15th, 2021. And B, the minutes of the District of Temiskaming Social Services Administration Board meeting held on the August the 18th, 2021. Do we have a mover and a seconder for that motion? Councillor Ferrier, second by Councillor Jelly. Any comments on those 2 sets of minutes? All in favor? That is carried. There are no committees of council, the internal department reports. Any reports by members of council tonight? Yes, Councillor Hewitt, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, so primarily I want to ask why I'm being forced to participate via Zoom, despite the fact that I didn't necessarily support an item in the previous minutes in regards to our recreation or department and mandatory vaccination. So I don't feel that I should be forced to participate via Zoom as a councillor. And I will bring up a notice of motion for that.
Okay, we'll discuss that with that notice of motion, so.
Furthermore, I'm also being asked to step down. You have an agenda addendum. I don't see in the minutes where it's going to come up in regards to stepping down from all committees of council.
It is listed in the bylaws, so we can discuss all that when we get into the bylaw section there.
Why can't we discuss it now?
It's on the agenda with the bylaw, so when we get to that particular bylaw for the committee appointments, we'll open it up for discussion.
I feel this is unprecedented, and I'd like to know why this addendum was added.
Well, we'll discuss that when we get to it, if you don't mind. Any other, Councillor Jelly?
Would you ask Councillor Hewitt if she did receive the information concerning the addendum? I believe that come out later, did it not, concerning the bylaw?
You did receive the addendum to the agenda that was sent out today by the clerk? Yeah, I was sent it yesterday,
Yes.
Actually. It was sent out yesterday, sorry.
Yes, I received it at 3:45 p.m. yesterday.
Yes, okay, so you received that, okay. The other comment I wanted to make, or a report that I want to make, is that Chris and I did attend the memorial service for the previous mayor of Cobalt, Tina Sederata. So that was quite a session. There was lots of speakers, attendance by the board directors for Laurentian University and Agnico Eagle as well, and looked at setting up another fund with the Temiskaming Foundation. So they're donating another $5,000 per year for the next 4 years on that. So that plus the other Cobalt Heritage Fund, is that what it's called? No, Cobalt Legacy Fund. So yeah, that was all recognized as work that she'd done when she was actually mayor of Cobalt. So that was quite interesting. So. And there was also unveiling of a mural on the back of the Buster's convenience store, and a TV camera crew that was there from TFO doing a little 15-minute session on the basic hidden treasures of Temiskaming Shores. So they had a bunch of kids. They went around and took video all over the city, and they're making that into a 15-minute short video that's going to be aired on TFO sometime next year. So it's kind of interesting. I was asked to go say a few words there, so it's nice that we're getting that recognition, nice that we're getting what we recognize through that media presentation. It's a very, very enjoyable place to reside, and with the lake and everything else, and all the attractions that we do have in the area, so it's interesting. Any other reports? Moving on to notice of motions. Councillor Hewitt. Sorry, you want to unmute there? Councillor Hewitt, sorry.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to ask Council to amend the motion to the procedural bylaw to be amended to allow for electronic participation to be counted towards quorum. Motion to follow.
Do you want to read the motion, or do you want the clerk to read the motion?
Yeah, Logan can definitely read the motion.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So the motion reads, whereas Section 4.6 of the City of Temiskaming Shores Procedural Bylaw number 2008-160 as amended states the following: electronic participation. Council members may participate in meetings electronically. However, a member who participates cannot be counted towards quorum. Electronic participation is permitted in a meeting open to the public. Participation in closed meetings is limited to those councillors or members of a local board who are participating in person. And whereas Section 238, subsection 3.3 of the Municipal Act 2001 states that a procedure bylaw may provide that a member of council, local board, or committee can be counted in determining quorum and can participate electronically in a meeting that is either open or closed to the public, so long as it is set out in the applicable procedural bylaw. And whereas the COVID-19 pandemic has created unprecedented circumstances that require flexibility in order to address health and safety protocols. Now therefore be it resolved that Council for the City of Temiskaming Shores hereby agrees to amend its procedural bylaw to permit electronic participation for both open and closed sessions of council, local board and committee meetings, and also remove the quorum exclusion for those who participate in meetings electronically.
Thank you very much. If council wishes to deal with this notice of motion tonight, we can pass a resolution, and if we get a 2/3 vote to waive the rules of procedure, we can actually deal with this tonight. If not, then we'll bring it back to the next council meeting. So do we have a motion? Councilor Jelly?
Yes, I would make a motion to waive the rules of procedure and deal with this evening.
Do we have a seconder for that motion?
Sure, I'll second that.
Councilor LaFerrier. So I'll read the motion. I don't know whether we need a recorded vote. We probably should. Okay. Motion, be resolved that the Council of the City of Temiskaming Shores hereby agrees to waive Section 38 of the city's procedural bylaw, notice of motion, in order to allow Councilor Hewitt's motion to amend bylaw 2008-160 as amended to permit members of council participating in an electronic meeting outside of a declared emergency to count towards quorum and to participate in the closed session meetings. That's the motion. Everybody understand the motion? Chris, you want to comment?
Just for clarity, on a motion to waive the rules of procedure requires 2/3 majority, so 5 of the 7 members of council present. So it should, I would recommend that you have a recorded vote just so it's documented that you achieved the 2/3 majority on that.
Okay. We'll go alphabetical order, I guess. Councilor MacArthur, you want to comment?
So this means that in 2 weeks' time, if I can't make the meeting, Councillor Ferrier can't make the meeting, Councillor Whalen can't make the meeting, and Councillor Hewitt, we can all vote in a closed session, but we can't tonight if we're on Zoom. This is like, you know what I mean? If we're passing something, that means we can stay at home and vote on everything, including go into a closed session. Is it for everybody or is it just for one?
This is what we did before. We were trying to get council to come back into council as a standard policy and deal with all the items sitting in this council chambers. We're making an exception for Councilor Hewitt to actually participate via Zoom and be able to participate in the regular council meeting. And this motion here, if it's passed, would allow her to count as quorum on any motions during open session, and also allow her to participate and vote in any discussion, have discussion in closed session as well. So, Chris?
Sorry, just for clarity, so what you're voting on right now is just to waive the rules of procedure. You're not voting on the main motion. So the rules of procedure is just what you're talking about, I think, is really the main motion. So right now you're just voting on whether you want to deal with it tonight. If the motion to reconsider is defeated, the notice still goes on for debate at the next regular meeting. You're just debating right now as to whether or not you want to allow it to be dealt with tonight. So just for clarity.
Tonight's agenda, yes.
That's right, yes.
Okay. We understand? Any clarification? I'll ask the clerk for a recorded vote.
Thank you. Councillor Foley.
In favor.
Councillor Hewitt.
In favor.
Councillor Jelly.
In favor.
Councillor LaFerrier.
In favor.
Councillor MacArthur.
In favor.
Councillor Whalen.
Opposed.
Mayor Kidd.
In favor?
Your worship, the motion carries.
So, next item on the agenda is that actual draft motion. So we'll read the motion again, and we're going to move into seconder, and then we can discuss that as well. So it's whereas section 4.6 of the City of Temiskaming Shores Procedural Bylaw number 2008-160 as amended states the following: electronic participation. Council members may participate in meetings electronically. However, a member who participates cannot be counted towards quorum. Electronic participation is permitted in meetings open to the public. Participation in closed meetings is limited to those councillors or members of a local board who are participating in person. And whereas Section 238, Section 3.3 of the Municipal Act 2001 states that a procedural bylaw may provide that a member of council, local board, or committees can be counted in determining quorum and can participate electronically in a meeting that is either open or closed to the public, so long as it is set out in the applicable procedural bylaw. And whereas the COVID-19 pandemic has created unprecedented circumstances that require flexibility in order to address health and safety protocols, now therefore be resolved that Council for the City of Temiskaming Shores hereby agrees to amend its procedural bylaw to permit electronic participation for both open and closed sessions of council, local board and committee meetings, and also remove the quorum exclusion for those who participate in meetings electronically. That's the motion. We have a mover and a seconder, and then we can discuss it. Moved by Councillor Ferrier, second by Councillor Jelly. So, any comments? We're just discussing whether or not we want to look at actually passing this particular bylaw to allow people that are working, coming in on Zoom to actually participate in closed session meetings, and actually whether they're counted as a quorum for the regular open session. Councillor Jelly?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I did some research and question asking today concerning this, and the provincial directive at one time used to state that you couldn't be counted in quorum, and also that you couldn't attend electronic meetings, closed session meetings. That has been removed, probably partially because of the pandemic, and it's still in effect, where the directive now does allow for electronic attendance in both open and closed meetings. And it also states in there that the members attending electronically do count towards quorum. So I know that we can have our procedural bylaw different than this, but I think this makes sense in the times that we're in. And in fairness to Councillor Hewitt, she was duly elected by the people of the city, and she has the right to represent the people of the city. She certainly will represent them in open, and I don't see a reason why she couldn't have them in closed. We must have safety precautions. We go off, plus the public can't attend, so we should be able to control that. And I just want to point out also part of my reasoning is I sit on two rather large boards, one of them being DSAB. We do our open and closed business virtually, and we probably will be for quite some time. And I also sit on the Ontario Association of Police Service Boards, and we handle our business in the same manner. So I think it's personally only fair that she be allowed to attend to represent her people that voted for her and the citizens of Temiskaming Shores. Thank you.
Just to clarify a couple things there, back on February 2nd, we did pass a motion allowing for electronic meetings, and it was basically during a declared emergency, which the province had declared an emergency at that time, so that's why we changed our procedural bylaw at that time and allowed virtual meetings and allowed virtual voting and allowed people to participate in closed sessions virtually as well. So that was under an emergency order from the province. So since that has been canceled, we will revert back to our procedural bylaw. Councillor Jelly?
Yes, we would revert back to our procedural bylaw, but that's the request this evening, is to
Yes.
alter that bylaw.
I just want to clarify that.
Yeah, that emergency, that still is in effect in the province of those conditions, so it's not an emergency.
Yeah, but we have to amend our procedural bylaw in order to allow participation by virtually in a closed session. So that's what we're doing with this particular motion. So, Councilor MacArthur?
Well, I can't really vote for this because there's more to the story, and I think we're putting it later when we're going to explain to Councillor Hewitt why she is on Zoom tonight. So why are we passing something now when we are going to find out?
Point of order, Your Worship. We are not discussing that following item. We are discussing an open and closed session. We are not discussing that other article.
So,
It affects it tonight.
could you keep your mask up, sir? So, Councilor Ferrier?
Thank you, Your Worship. First of all, I don't think this is about one councillor. The motion is about all of us at some point. And I think that with technology advancements, with some of the learnings we've been able to achieve through COVID, I think this is possible. I think having accommodations that would support, council and the city moving forward, and with having everybody be able to participate, I'm in favor of. I don't know why we wouldn't. As long as it's legal and we have a way of safeguarding to ensure that when we are in camera, that it's just the folks that should be there. I'm all in favor. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of continuing our trust in our councillors. It's actually a matter of continuing our trust in the councillors to make sure that they're not being overheard during closed session if they are attending virtually. So that's where we're putting that trust back on the council. And it's to deal with all council. So that's what we're looking at. So, Councillor Whalen?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Kidd. We do have to make changes to deal with the virtual reality that we're facing. I mean, it's not going away anytime this winter. As far as attending virtually, I don't see how we're breaking any 11th commandment or anything. But what I do have a serious concern about is I received a phone call this morning from a gentleman who received a phone call from another council member yesterday.
Just be careful what you're saying now. So.
And for about an hour, he told me details about our closed session meetings. So I don't think this has to do with attending in person or virtually. I think we have a problem with keeping closed session closed. And that's what we should be thinking about. If council supports having attend virtually in closed session, and I'm all for it. But I think we really have a problem with closed session. But simply because we are looking at changing our procedural bylaw, I would call for a recorded vote. I think that should be on record.
The other concern I have is whether or not we want to include local boards and committees as part of this motion. I think we're looking specifically at these council meetings and whether or not members of council can participate in a closed session virtually. Chris?
So most of our committee, I can answer that, most of our committees and boards follow the city's procedural bylaw. So if you were to make this change, then so right now our committees and boards are restricted to just meeting virtually during they can meet virtually, but their members may not count for quorum and their members would not be able to participate in closed, except for when we were in an emergency, which that one ended on June 2nd, the provincial emergency. So this would apply to all of your committees and boards as well, because most of them default to the city's procedural bylaw.
Okay. Councilor MacArthur?
Yeah, well, I remember several years ago, and I think you'll remember too, Mayor, I do believe maybe Jesse was with us on the health issue, maybe he wasn't. But when we talked, we are having members that weren't coming to the meeting and they were at home. We decided that this was, and you'll remember, we decided that it was really iffy to go into closed session in case someone picked up on something, a mechanical, technical, whatever you want to call it, and we made sure that everybody knew that they couldn't take part. And I can tell you what happened was that we didn't have too many people sitting at home. They came, and they actually came live because they couldn't participate in a closed session unless they were there in person. And I agree with Councillor Whalen. It's iffy. I mean, we've got a great person working for us technically, but if something was to get out in closed session, and not the fault of him or us, or we could be in one hell of a lawsuit. I'm very worried about going into closed session virtually. Really am.
Other comments, Councillor Hewitt?
So primarily due to the emergency status, we were forced to go into closed session for almost a year, maybe a little bit over. And at that time, there was obviously a trust between all of council to support motions, commitments going forward to support the greater good of our communities. I would hope that that still continues. I'm being forced to sit in a Zoom meeting primarily because I have not disclosed my vaccination status. I want that to be considered.
This was put into place in February the 2nd. It was canceled in June, so it was in place for 3 or 4 months there. So.
I realize that, but due to unprecedented times, there's different policies moving forward that doesn't necessarily support everyone's opinion, but council should not be singled out because of any one or other vote.
Is there any other discussion on this matter before we vote on it? So, Councillor Foley?
So this is for basically, we're talking mostly about closed, or as of right now, if you're in a Zoom meeting, as of right now, her vote doesn't count, is what?
She doesn't. Her vote counts, but she doesn't count as quorum.
Okay.
In the meeting, but she will be recorded as voting in favor or against any open session resolutions and bylaws.
Okay.
So this is only amending whether she counts as quorum and whether or not she is allowed to participate in the closed session through Zoom. So, and any other member of council in the future that does this. So. Councillor Jelly?
Perhaps if you could read the motion back again, Your Worship, that might clear something.
The first part deals with what's in place now, and then we go into, and whereas Section 238, Section 3.3 of the Municipal Act 2001 states that a procedural bylaw may provide that a member of council, local board, or committee can be counted on or counted in determining quorum and can participate electronically in a meeting that is either open or closed to the public so long as it is set out in the applicable procedural bylaw. And whereas the COVID-19 pandemic has created unprecedented circumstances that require flexibility in order to address health and safety protocols, now therefore be it resolved that Council for the City of St. George hereby agrees to amend its procedural bylaw to permit electronic participation for both open and closed sessions of Council, local boards and committee meetings, and also remove the quorum exclusion for those who participate in meetings electronically. So that's what we're voting on. So clear with mud? We're good. So we want another recorded vote.
Yes, for it.
Danny, yes, that's what I thought. Councillor Whalen will go first.
Councillor Whalen.
In favor.
Councillor Foley.
In favor.
Councillor Hewitt.
In favor.
Councillor Jelly.
In favor.
Councillor Ferrier.
In favor.
Councillor MacArthur. Mayor Kidd.
In favor.
Your worship, the motion carries.
So just a clarification, does this motion resolution take effect as of now, or is it, we need a bylaw passed?
So with consent of council, I think you've outlined your intent now with the motion. The bylaw itself, it will take us, we'll have to amend the procedural bylaw to bring back, but I think your intent is that you would allow Councillor Hewitt to participate in tonight's closed session based on the resolution that you just passed. If council is comfortable with that, I think you are in your rights to allow Councillor Hewitt to participate in the closed session tonight. Okay. The actual bylaw amendment will be presented at the 19th meeting.
Councillor Whalen?
Yeah, I agree. Normally the action is confirmed when you adopt the minutes at the next meeting, but I would waive that again. We waive the rules of procedure and allow this to take effect immediately regardless of the reading of the bylaw.
Yeah, that was my...
So I'll move that if somebody wants to second it.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Whalen, second by Councillor Jelly, that we approve this action being in effect as of now, rather than waiting for the actual bylaw to be passed. So, all in favor of that motion? Yes. Okay, that is carried. Okay, moving on to new business. 15A is a proclamation for the 21st Annual Child Care Worker and Early Childhood Educator Appreciation Day set for October 21st, 2021. And the resolution reads, whereas years of research confirms the benefits of high-quality child care for young children's intellectual, emotional, social, and physical development and later life outcomes, and whereas child care promotes the well-being of children and responds to the needs of parents and the broader community by supporting quality of life so that citizens can fully participate in and contribute to the economic and social life of their community, and whereas trained and knowledgeable early childhood educators and child care staff are the key to quality in early learning and child care programs and champions for children. Now therefore be resolved that Council for the City of St. Shores hereby designates October the 21st, 2021 to be the 21st Annual Child Care Worker and Early Childhood Educator Appreciation Day in recognition of the education, dedication, and commitment of child care workers to children, their families, and the quality of life of the community. So moved by Councillor Ferrier, second by Councillor Whalen. All in favor of that motion? That is carried. 15B is the January to September 2021 year-to-date capital finance report. And I got a motion be resolved that Council of the City of St. Shores hereby acknowledge receipt of the January to September 2021 year-to-date capital finance reports for information purposes. So we're moving a second for that motion. Moved by Councillor Jelly, second by Councillor Foley. Any comments on the capital report? Councillor Whalen.
Yeah, just a nod to staff. It looks good on paper. It looks good around the city as well, so appreciate the efforts.
Yeah, a lot of work's been done this year, so people are noticing that as well. So, all in favor of the motion? That is carried. 15C is Memo 033, 2021 CS, the skate sharpening booth lease agreement, the change of ownership. And like a motion reads, be resolved the Council for the City of St. Shores acknowledge receipt of Memo 033, 2021 CS, and the Council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to enter into a lease agreement with Terrace Holdings Incorporated to reflect the new ownership of the business previously operated as Active One Source for Sports for the remainder of the 3-year lease agreement term of the skate sharpening booth at the Don Shepard Memorial Arena for consideration at the October 5th, 2021 regular council meeting later tonight. So we're moving a second of that motion. Councillor Whalen, second by Councillor Foley. Any comments? All in favor? That is carried. 15D is Memo 034, 2021 CS, the Business Recovery Program, and the motion reads, be resolved that Council for the City of St. Shores acknowledge receipt of Memo 034, 2021 CS, titled Business Recovery Program for information purposes. Moving and seconder for that motion, Councillor Ferrier, second by Councillor MacArthur. Any comments? All in favor? That is carried. 15E, Administrative Report CS 037, 2021, HER2 Land Use Agreement. And the motion reads, be it resolved that Council for the City of Temiskaming Stores acknowledge receipt of Administrative Report CS 037, 2021, and the Council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to enter into a 5-year land use agreement for the lands described as Buck Concession 1, the north part of Lot 7, parcel 6958 SST, with Mr. George Hurto for consideration at the October 5th, 2021 regular council meeting. So, moved by Councillor LaFerrier, second by Councillor Foley. All in favor? That is carried. 15F is Administrative Report CS 038-2021, Property Standards Bylaw Amendment for nuisance trees. And I got a motion be resolved that Council for the City of Temiskaming Stores acknowledge receipt of the Administrative Report CS 038-2021, and the Council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to amend bylaw 2018-081, property standards to include provisions for the regulation of nuisance trees for consideration at the October 5th, 2021 regular council meeting later tonight. So, move by Councillor Jelly, second by Councillor Foley. Questions? Councillor MacArthur.
Yes, I think it should be pointed out to our taxpayers that this is a growing problem with older trees that are very tall. And no, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be in a hurricane or a bad storm. And I think that all our taxpayers out there should be looking at their private property, even our city property, should be checking over these trees, because I can tell you right now that we lost a very nice fellow a few years ago in southern Ontario with a tree falling on him. And you know, it's just life and it happens, but I think it's needless. So please, people's got to check their trees, and obviously the city checks them down at the ballpark and around the area. But I think this is a needed, definitely needed bylaw.
This will actually give our bylaw enforcement people a little bit of teeth there to actually go in and make sure people's properties are safe. If you're dealing with a neighbor that's got a tree hanging your property that is not unsafe, it's going to cause damage or cause harm, personal harm, then I think it gives a little more teeth there to have the bylaw people go in and have those issues corrected there. So that's what this is going to do, and authorize. And they'll have to get a arborist, yes, just to prove that the tree is still healthy and still safe there. And that should resolve some issues throughout the whole city. So, Councillor MacArthur.
I failed to mention it also could end in a hell of a lawsuit. Thank you.
Any other comments? All in favor of this motion? Okay, 15G, Administrative Report CS 039, 2021, the lease agreement with Dr. Preddy. Be it resolved that the Council for the City of Temiskaming Shores acknowledges receipt of Administrative Report CS 039, 2021, that Council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to enter into a lease agreement with Dr. Chelsea Preddy to lease office space in the Hillary Medical Center for consideration at the October 5th, 2021 regular council meeting tonight. So, mover and seconder, Councillor Ferrier, second by Councillor Jelly. All in favor? That is carried. And item H was deleted from the agenda. Moving on to item I, Administrative Report CS 041, 2021, the zoning bylaw amendment number 2021-06 for the Diamond Concession 4 north part of Lot 12, parcel 15244 SST. And the resolution reads, be resolved the Council for the City of Temiskaming Shores acknowledge receipt of Administrative Report CS 041, 2021. The Council agrees to amend the provisions of the City of Temiskaming Shores zoning bylaw 2017-154 to permit the zone change from prime agricultural A1 to prime agricultural exception 2, that's A1-2, and the Council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to amend the City of Temiskaming Shores zoning bylaw 2017-154 for consideration at the October 5th, 2021 regular Council meeting. So, moved by Councillor Whelan, second by Councillor Ferrier. All in favor? That is carried. 15J is Memo 001, 2021 LIB, the Memorandum of Understanding with Northern College for provision of library services in Hillsbury. I got a motion be resolved the Council for the City of Temiskaming acknowledge receipt of Memo 001, 2021 LIB, and that the Council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to repeal bylaw 2019-189 and to enter into a revised memorandum of understanding between Northern College of Applied Arts and Technology, the City of Temiskaming Shores, and the Temiskaming Shores Public Library for library services at the Northern College Hillsbury campus at an annual rate of $18,000 even, including taxes, plus a 3% increase for each subsequent year specified in the agreement for consideration at tonight's October 5th, 2020 regular council meeting. So, moved by Councillor Ferrier, second by Councillor Foley. Any comments? All in favor? That is carried. 15K is the Administrative Report PW 021 2021, the 2021 through 2022 Winter Operations Plan. I got a motion to be resolved the Council for the City of Temiskaming acknowledge receipt of Administrative Report PW 021 2021. The Council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw for the implementation of the 2021-2022 Winter Operations Plan for consideration of the October 5th regular Council meeting, and the Council directs the Manager of Transportation Services to advise staff in the Public Works Department in writing of the intent to commence the winter operations schedule on or about Sunday, November the 7th, 2021, and conclude on or about Thursday, April the 7th, 2022. So, moved by Councillor Jelly, second by Councillor Foley. Any comments? All in favor? That is carried. 15L, Administrative Report PW 022 2021, the tender award for the transit bus. I got a motion be resolved the Council for the City of Temiskaming acknowledge receipt of Administrative Report PW 022 2021. And the Council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaws to enter into an agreement with Alexander Denis Incorporated for supply and delivery of a 35-foot conventional transit bus in the amount of $315,000 plus applicable taxes for consideration at the October 5th, 2021 regular council meeting later tonight. So, moved by Councillor MacArthur, second by Councillor Ferrier. Any comments? All in favor? That is carried. And bylaws. So this next one, I've declared a conflict of interest with the bylaw 2021-141, and I will not be participating in the discussion on this matter, so I'll pass a motion here to have designate Councillor LaFerrier take over as chair. So the motion reads, be resolved the Council for the City of Temiskaming hereby designates Councillor LaFerrier to chair this part of the meeting. So moved by Councillor Whalen, second by Councillor Foley. All in favor? That is carried. I'll vacate the chair and let Councillor LaFerrier take over, and we'll be back.
I do have a motion in front of us. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2021-141, being a bylaw to appoint an interim integrity commissioner for the City of Temiskaming Shores, which repeals bylaw number 2019-036, be hereby introduced and given first and second reading. Can I get a mover, please? Thanks, Councillor Whalen. Thanks, Councillor Jelly. Discussion? Oh. All in favor? Motion's carried. Do we want to do the third? And be it resolved that bylaw number 2021-141 be given third and final reading, be signed by the mayor and clerk, and the corporate seal affixed thereto. Can I get a mover? Councillor Whalen, thank you. Councillor MacArthur, thank you. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. And then I have, be it resolved that Mayor Kidd resumes as chair of the meeting. Can I get a mover? Thanks, Councillor Foley. Seconder? Thanks, Councillor Hewitt. All in favor? That motion's carried.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that, Jeff. So we'll move on to the section number 16, the bylaws. And I got a motion be resolved that bylaw 2021-142, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2019-018, as amended to appoint community representatives to various committees and boards for the 2019-2021 term of council, and that's for the Age-Friendly Committee. Bylaw 2021-143, being a bylaw to enter into a lease agreement with Terrace Holdings Incorporated, operate as an active one source for sports for the rental of skate sharpening booth at the Don Jefferson Memorial Arena. That repeals bylaw 2019-138. Bylaw 2021-144, being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with George Hertu for the occupation of municipal land, roll number 54-18-030-008-042.00. Bylaw 2021-145, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2018-081 to regulate property standards regulating nuisance trees. Bylaw 2021-146, being a bylaw to authorize the entering into a lease agreement with Dr. Chelsea Preddy for the rental space of the Hillbury Medical Center. 2021-144 was pulled from the agenda tonight. Bylaw 2021-148, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 2017-154 to rezone Diamond Concession 4 north part of Lot 12, parcel 15244 SST, from the prime agricultural A1 zone to the prime agricultural exception 2 zone to permit the residential uses and permit to prohibit residential uses and permit a reduced lot area. Bylaw 2021-149, being a bylaw enter into a memorandum of understanding between Northern College of Applied Arts and Technology, the City of Temiskaming Shores, and the Temiskaming Shores Public Library for library service at the Northern College Hillbury campus, and this repeals bylaw 2019-189. Bylaw 2021-150, being a bylaw to adopt the 2021-2022 winter operation plan for the City of Temiskaming Shores. Bylaw 2021-151, being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with Alexander Denis Canada Incorporated for the supply and delivery of one 35-foot conventional transit bus. Bylaw 2021-152, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2021-139 to adopt a recreation facilities proof of COVID-19 vaccination policy for the City of Temiskaming Shores. And lastly, bylaw 2021-154, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2019-001 to appoint council committees and council representatives to various boards and committees for the December 1st, 2018 to November 30th, 2022 term of council. These motions be hereby introduced and given first and second reading. So we're moving and second.
Mayor Kidd, I thought Councillor Jelly wanted 154 dealt with separately.
I think we can deal with it. We can deal with it at this time, so we need a mover and a seconder, and we'll open for discussion. Councillor MacArthur, seconded by Councillor Ferrier. Comments, discussion on any of these bylaws? Councillor Jelly.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Concerning this bylaw of committees and of council, I just want to make reference to the Temiskaming Social Service Administration Board. And I want to point out that we have cleared the way, although we're an independent board, but the city has cleared the way as far as the closed meetings. Our practice with DSAB is we've held our meetings virtually, obviously, for the last while. We will be for quite some time, as we can't get a hall in the center part of the area that's big enough to accommodate us all, taking in consideration the COVID rules. We also, I'm going to say, we also meet regularly. We will be for quite some time. In the past, we've always allowed anybody that is not able to attend a meeting to attend either open or closed electronically. And we are an essential service, of course. And I just wanted to point out that I don't know the reasoning for removing one of our members, but I can tell you I did check the attendance record. 2 meetings missed in 2 years, that's it. And I just wanted that brought to your attention, Your Worship, that those are the facts coming from DSAB. And I am the chair of DSAB, so I checked those today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think we've got 2 points that we're looking at tonight. First of all, we have a policy in place that required staff, volunteers, and it was inferred that council members were involved as well, that they had to be double vaccinated in order to take part in-house here. We have provided alternative for anybody that's not fully vaccinated to participate by Zoom, which is the right for anybody that's elected official there. So that is the reason why Councillor Hewitt is not participating in person tonight, because she has not confirmed one way or the other whether she has been fully vaccinated or not. So we have staff dealing with the same issue with employees that I'm trying to deal with now with the council members. So that's the first issue. Councillor Jelly, you want to comment?
I understand that, Your Worship. I just wanted to point that out. I'll also point out that DSAB does not have a vaccination policy, and we are an essential service, so we have to accommodate.
But this council did approve our vaccination policy. Councillor Hewitt, you had your hand up, I believe. I missed that. But.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that explanation. I was a little bit dumbfounded when I seen that I've been removed in all committees and under the City of Temiskaming Shores, and I think I have a right whether or not to disclose my vaccination status. And you know, we didn't even have an integrity commissioner voted in tonight. I need to consult with them, and I would ask that we not support this policy moving forward until we have more consideration.
We have 2 issues. The first, as I just explained, was a matter of being able to attend council meetings, and that was through a motion that was passed basically a month ago now. We had our reopening COVID vaccination policy for both staff and volunteers and council members. That's the first issue. The second issue that we're looking at is the redistribution of council members on the various committees. And I have went through and had issues with your attendance with transit, your attendance with library. In the past, we've had issues with your attendance and BIA and some of the other committees. And I don't feel comfortable that I can leave you on some of those committees or any of those committees and feel that you're going to attend and represent our council and deal with the issues. I mean, that's just the real reason why you're not being appointed to any of these committees as of tonight. It's nothing to do with your vaccination status.
So you just heard from Councillor Jelly that over 2 years that I missed only 2 meetings with DSAB. So and you also know that when it comes to different issues that I'm quite outspoken and obviously keep up with the agenda at bay. And so I feel this is seriously unmerited.
I know there was a transit meeting last week that there were some very serious items being discussed.
Yes, there was. Yes, there was. And it was Monday morning at 9 a.m. I thought it was Tuesday morning. Kelly sent out a communication and stroked out the one, and I had it in my head it was Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. So I can certainly understand where that was a little bit of a, disappointment for members of the Transit Committee. At the same time, I think anyone that has nominated or elected me to speak on their behalf knows that whatever I whatever I put out there, I'm definitely have our interest at heart, and I do my due diligence.
We have a total of 4 members on that transit committee, 2 from Cobalt and 2 from Snow Shores. We can't afford to have somebody not present when we're voting on these issues. We're dealing with a $310,000 bus that you were not part of the discussion. There's other items that were brought up. We're talking transit routes.
And I actually asked that I not be considered for transit committee and I stay on public works, because as a new councillor, there's always a learning curve to come up to speed on various issues, but that was denied.
Well, it's my prerogative which council members are appointed to which committees, and we'll bring, this is my recommendation, come to council tonight to make these changes, and it'll be up to council whether they vote for the changes that I have recommended here tonight. So, any other comments from council members? Councillor Whalen?
I just wanted to say I'll speak to the third reading.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't get to hear that, Councillor Whalen.
I just made a mention that I'll speak to the third reading. First and second reading usually pass without debate, so I'll speak to the third reading.
Councillor Ferrier?
Sure, the only comment I'll make, and I'm not going to speak to any of the other committees other than the library board, and when Councillor Hewitt was appointed to the library board, the dates didn't line up with her schedule, so we made all the changes to accommodate Councillor Hewitt so she could attend the meetings. And I don't believe Councillor Hewitt has been at any of the last 4 library board meetings. So I do have the same concern that your worship has with regards to the attendance. And it is a challenge. It's something that we do need, our full participation in. Thank you.
So I would disagree with that. Last 4, yes, I have missed meetings with the library board, and again, I ask that I not be designated to the library board.
Councillor Jelly first, and then Councillor MacArthur.
No,
Chris, sorry.
Sorry, just to Councillor, I don't know if that was a point of order that Councillor, okay, the procedural bylaw does say no debate or amendments to the first and second reading, just so you know.
I realize that.
I just didn't want to miss my turn.
Yeah, okay. Councillor Jelly? You want to discuss now or after first and second
no, just
reading?
a simple statement. That's why I asked that that bylaw be set out, so that when I'm voting on a bylaw that I'm not voting on all bylaws.
We can we still do that? I think we still can do that.
Procedure bylaw does say a member can ask for a bylaw. Let me get my glasses on. Sorry, just give me 1 minute. I had looked it up. At the request of any member of council, the reading of any bylaw shall be deleted from the consolidated motion. Consolidated motion means all of the bylaws together and dealt with by a separate motion. So that's in 41.2 of the procedural bylaw.
Okay. Councillor Jelly, you want to?
I would make that motion, please. Thank you.
Do we have a seconder for that motion to separate this particular bylaw out and be discussed separately? Councillor Ferrier? All in favor? So we can vote on the first and second reading of all the other bylaws first of all. So that's what we're looking at. We're taking bylaw 2021-154 off discussion and off this vote. You understand, Councillor MacArthur? You got something else comment or?
Well, are we still talking about the meetings? Can't we talk about the meetings
we'll discuss
anymore?
this. We'll discuss this meeting separately in a few minutes. So, okay. So we're looking at bylaws 2021-142 through 152. Moved by Councillor MacArthur, second by Councillor Ferrier. So we've got motions for that. You're fine with that amendment, Councillor MacArthur? That we're taking that one bylaw off the bulk package? Councillor Ferrier, you're fine with that? So, okay. So I'll call the question. All in favor of all those bylaws? That is carried. And we'll do the third reading as well. So I motion be it resolved that bylaw 2021-120, being the amendment to the animal control bylaw 2013-151, bylaw 142, 143, 144, 145, 146, 148, 149, 150, 151, and 152 be hereby given third and final reading, be signed by the mayor and clerk, and the corporal seal affixed thereto. Moved by Councillor Whalen, second by Councillor Ferrier. All in favor? I should ask if there's any more discussion on any of those items, but so all in favor, so we're carried. So, okay, going back to be resolved the bylaw 2021-154, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2019-001 to appoint council committees and council representatives to various boards and committees for the December 1st, 2018 to November 30th, 2022 term of council. We need a mover and a seconder for that motion. Moved by Councillor Whaling, second by Councillor Ferrier. This is still first and second reading, so we'll deal with debate before we pass the third and final reading. So.
Yes, I was just going to ask for a recorded vote on that one also.
On the first and second reading, we can do that as well. So, Councillor Jelly has asked for a recorded vote on this.
Councillor Jelly.
Opposed.
Thank you. Councillor Foley.
In favor.
Councillor Hewitt.
Opposed.
Councillor Ferrier.
In favor.
Councillor MacArthur. In favor. Councillor Whalen.
In favor.
Mayor Kidd.
In favor?
Your worship, the motion carries.
Thank you. We'll have another motion here. Be it resolved that bylaw 2021-154 be given third and final reading, be signed by the mayor and clerk, and the corporal seal affixed thereto. Moved and second by Councillor Ferrier, second by Councillor Foley.
For consistency, Your Worship, we should have for consistency, I ask for a recorded vote.
Okay, we're open for discussion at this present time, but we'll consider your yes. Who wants to go first? Councillor MacArthur?
Are we still talking about the attendance?
We're talking about appointments to council committees.
But I don't feel that we've answered Councillor Hewitt's question.
No.
When it came to, I'll remind everyone that it's not, I think we're looking at back in March when we received our remuneration, and at the same time, all our meetings and attendance. At that time, Councillor Hewitt had a very high mark on missed meetings. And I remember that distinctly. Councillor Hewitt was in attendance that night, and that was one of the things that were brought up at that time. And now we're talking about what's happened over the last couple of months or 3 months. So I think it's only fair that we remind ourselves, and you, Councillor Hewitt, of the number of meetings that you missed back in 2020. The statistics, I don't have them in front of me, but that's one of the things that I do believe are among the problems this evening.
I know I had asked Kelly Collin to go through and make up a spreadsheet of the attendance of all council meetings, council committee meetings, and the attendance of all council members. And that was presented to council in open public session back, I believe, in really early this year. It showed all the attendance records. Some were good, some were dismal. So I mean, I looked at age-friendly committee from 2020 to 2021. Her attendance on that committee was 4 out of about 20, 21% attendance in that committee. We're running into the same problem now with transit and library, so that's my concerns. So, Councillor Hewitt.
So in my defense, when I look at that report that you asked for staff to put together, many of the council meetings that I actually missed were noon meetings that were called last minute for special meetings. In regards to age-friendly committee, basically at that time I was working. I don't know any other individuals that have to have other duties to attend to, but are we expected as council members that are elected to only be able to participate in various meetings through the day and otherwise? Because sometimes our schedule changes and we're not even able to know that in advance and participate in it. And anyone out there knows how strong and how hard I fought to have age-friendly communities to even come to fruition.
I think most committees have amended dates and that, and trying to accommodate all their members, whether they're volunteers in the public or council members. So that's something that we think all committees have strived to do there. But so, Councillor Whalen, you wanted to make a comment as well. Third and final reading.
No, I do. I would like to make some comments. I'm not going to name anybody, and I'm not going to get into a debate over vaccines, because that's not what this is about. Council passed a policy. So anybody that's ever read their council code of conduct, although I'm starting to think there's a lot of unread copies out there, it says members of council will accurately communicate the decisions of the City of Temiskaming Shores Council, even if they disagree with the majority decision of council. And by doing so, affirm the respect for integrity in the decision-making process of council. A member may, by all means, state that he or she did not support the decision or voted against the decision, but they can't be against the policy. Every member of this council signed that, so you might want to go back and refresh your memory. This isn't about rights. Councillor Hewitt has rights to whether or not she wants to disclose her vaccination status. I have rights whether or not I want to sit beside somebody who hasn't. So her rights do not trump mine.
And so...
Excuse me.
Let Councillor Whalen finish, please.
If this was really about representing the taxpayer, as mentioned, our attendance would all be 95%. Without argument. You can provide all the excuses you want. That's the reality of what you're saying. And finally, I think Councillor Jelly mentioned it, whether or not, when you first mentioned this, the procedure of how we're dealing with this. It's the mayor's right. It says right in the Municipal Act. It's the mayor's right to make appointments to committees. All council does is confirm that through bylaw. You don't debate a bylaw on first and second reading. The third reading can wait for years. The only thing with the third reading is that it makes the books. There's a record. It's the mayor's decision. And I'd like to remind you that I'm guessing here, Mayor, but 4 years ago, maybe, we had a significant difference of opinion over the business plan for the airport. We had a great debate over it. Your decision was to remove me from that committee and appoint yourself, which is fully within your powers. And I'd like to remind everybody here that every member of this council supported that action. So don't sit here tonight and say, oh, I don't think we're doing the right thing. I don't think the mayor has the authority. The mayor has the authority. So wake up a little bit and remember what you did prior and what you're doing tonight, because the mayor is fully within his rights.
No, I've been fairly lenient with people during COVID here and haven't pressed the issue for the last 4 or 5 months, but I've agonized over this for the last 2 or 3 weeks, and especially over the weekend before I made this decision, and that's what I felt I had to do in order to proceed with council for the next year and 15 months. So that was my decision, and I sat down with Logan, and we drafted up this motion on Monday to make these appointments. So Councillor Jelly, you wanted to make a comment, and then we'll go back to Councillor Hewitt.
All I wanted to state is you're absolutely right, Councillor Whalen, but I also have the right to vote how I feel. I support the mayor totally, but I have the right to vote the way I feel, and I have the right to state what I stated earlier this evening about her attendance at DSAP. Seems everybody else did.
Yeah, we'll have that recorded vote shortly. So, Councillor Hewitt, did you want to make a comment?
Absolutely. First off, in response to Councillor Whalen's comments, my understanding this wasn't supposed to have anything to do with my status or non-status for vaccination. And I obviously understand procedural bylaw and the rights of our mayor for this proceeding. I don't necessarily agree with this motion or moving forward, and I do feel like I'm being singled out and stigmatized. At the same time, I understand you have that authority to make that call. I just hope it's in the best interest of our public to do so.
Just 2 clarifications there. Sitting around the council table was a motion that was put through council and the reopening of the vaccination policy that all participants in the council meetings and all staff had to be double vaccinated. Staff attending these meetings had to be double vaccinated. Councillors had to be double vaccinated in order to actually attend physically in this building, and that's what Councillor Whalen was bringing up there. With you participating virtually, that eliminates that and puts his mind at ease that he's not possibly going to be in contact with the virus. Your business puts you in contact with a lot of people that are coming out from other areas. So that's just some of the concerns that we have. So I mean, that's being dealt with as a separate issue. The committee's appointments is another separate issue. So,
however, Councillor Whalen was the one that brought that up, and he also brought up the fact that he was removed from Airport Council back in the day, which merits or doesn't merit an argument to this motion. In regards to the vaccination, if there's safety in numbers and double vaccinated or otherwise, then why are people that are double vaccinated in fear of those that are not?
We're not getting into discussion about pros and cons of vaccination. That's a whole another discussion for another group of people. Council's made that decision. We passed that bylaw that everybody would be requested and required to be double vaccinated to attend, work with City Hall and work at Public Works, and any of our staff members and council followed that recommendation and voted on that recommendation. So.
And I agree, this shouldn't have been brought up in regards to this particular bylaw, but in my defense, Councillor Whalen was the one that brought this up. So I do take, I do take notice that this has been brought up in regards to this.
I mean, I did decide back a couple of years ago that I felt it better for the airport that I assumed that role as a member of the airport municipal service board at that time, and that I worked through that, and we've proceeded that way. And that was the decision I made at that time, and now I'm making a decision as far as the appointments here tonight. So,
and you're making a decision basically to take me off every single committee.
Yes, I don't feel comfortable, and I don't have any trust in you actually being able to attend the meetings that you're supposed to be attending. So that was my reasoning behind this. So,
Despite the fact that Councillor Jelly just mentioned I've only missed 2 meetings out in 2 years for DSAM.
That's one committee that you have attended fairly regularly, yes. I don't have an issue with that. It's all the other committees. So, Councillor Whalen?
Yeah, just for reference, the only reason I brought up that vote on the airport back then is because during our telephone conversation today, I was told by the councillor in question that the mayor did not have the authority to do what we're doing here tonight, and yet she voted in favor of the same action previously. So I'm just trying to eliminate the...
Okay, we at the point where Councillor Jelly has asked for a recorded vote on this particular motion, the third and final reading. Clerk, thank you.
Councillor Jelly.
Opposed.
Councillor Foley.
In favor.
Councillor Hewitt.
Opposed?
Councillor Ferrier.
In favor.
Councillor MacArthur.
In favor.
Councillor Whalen.
In favor.
Mayor Kidd.
In favor.
Your worship, the motion carries.
Thank you very much. Moving on, item number 17, the schedule of council meetings. The regular meeting of council is set up for Tuesday, October the 19th, 2021 at 6 p.m. And subsequent meeting to that is Tuesday, November the 2nd, 2021 at 6 p.m. We reached our second question and answer period. Anything on the chat box? So any questions from council members at this point? If not, we've got a closed session, and we'll take a 15-minute break once we pass this motion, and we'll get ready to go into closed. Motion reads, be resolved that council agrees to convene in closed session at 7:55 to discuss the following matters. A, the adoption of the September 21st, 2021 and September 28th, 2021 closed session minutes. B, under Section 239(2)B of the Municipal Act 2001, the personal matter identifiable individual for labor relations. And item C, under Section 239(2)C of the Municipal Act 2001, proposed or pending acquisition or disposal of land by the municipality for 545 Lakeshore Road. Mover and a seconder for that motion, moved by Councillor Foley, second by Councillor MacArthur. All in favor? We are adjourned for 15 minutes. We'll